The amphitheater can hold 8,000 soldiers at a time. The amphitheater is used to do the fight to death. The fight to death is a fight that humans do against animals. The most popular animals to do this with are lions, tigers, bears, pumas and panthers. You can find some of the amphitheatres in Manchester, Chester and Skelmersdale. The people fighting in the amphitheatre are called gladiators. The amphitheatre in Chester is the largest amphitheatre in Britain, or to the Romans Britannia. The amphitheatre was originated in ancient Italy, and now the amphitheatres are all over the world. The earliest successful amphitheatre was in Pompeii. Amphitheatres in a circular or oval shape. The amphitheatre is famous for animal slayings, court conferences and of course for fight to death. It is also an open-air theatre and is good for entertainment for soldiers on days when they're not on duty. The term derives from ancient Latin that means on the sides or around which is a place for viewing. When was the amphitheatre built?
Well, the amphitheatre in Chester is really exciting because we are able to date it really closely. We know that the amphitheatre, the first amphitheatre was built in the late 70s, so about AD 79, and then about 30 years later, so in the early 100s AD, they built another bigger wall around the outside to make the amphitheatre much bigger and fit more people in. And in between those two walls, the archaeology is trapped like a time capsule. So that helps us to date when the building was made, and it helps us know what was going on around the outside of the amphitheatre as well. So we know that the Romans had lovely food stalls, and they sold little singing bowls with gladiators on that they could take away as a souvenir of their games. So the amphitheatre was built in the late 70s AD first, but then a bigger version was built later on.
This is the southeast angle tower of the Roman fortress Diva, made in AD 79. It was a watchtower and used to watch for intruders. It is made of purple grey ashlar sandstone and is a lovely historical site.
The tower was constructed on the inside of the walls rather than projected beyond the walls. This would have afforded it all the protection the stone walls could provide, while still giving it the Roman guard.
For added defensive protection, there was a 20-foot wide and 9 feet deep ditch in front of the walls.
The tower is seemingly contemporary with the walls, as both structures are bound together with no difference in building materials or framing.
Chester was some 20% larger than any other Roman fort in Britain, even larger than York and London. Some historians have suggested that this could point to Roman intentions to make this their British capital.
Well, the Romans ate lots of lovely types of food. It depended on where they were in the world. If you lived in Chester, you'd have lots and lots of fish because you're by the river and the sea, and they brought lots in from other parts of the Roman Empire as well. So we've got amphora, which we know had preserved fruits in them, like peaches, pears and that sort of thing, and they had all different sorts of meat as well. They had beef and lamb that they loved, and pork. We know that they brought in olives and cooked with olive oil because we found those amphora. They had this really horrid fish sauce called garum, which is made out of rotting fish entrails that all ground up and mixed into a paste, and they thought it's the best thing to pour all over their food. We also found in the amphitheatre, we found lots of nutshells and some really unusual animals as well, like sea eagles that were being eaten. And around the outside of the amphitheatre, we know that they had fried chicken that they could take in to enjoy during the games. So loads of different things, all the sorts of things that you might expect that we might eat today, but they didn't have sugar. So they didn't have lots of cakes and things like that. Only ones sweetened by honey. They didn't have such a sweet tooth as us.
Welcome to the Roman Gardens.
The Roman gardens are located just outside the city walls near the amphitheater and has historic monuments. It's not a garden, it's a bathhouse. Despite being almost in the center of town, this is pretty little of an oasis of peace is worth a visit.
You can come and see the Roman brick ruins of their heating system.
It's got a lot of information in it. It's free to get in.
Which country did they trade with the most?
Well, they traded with countries all the way across the Roman Empire. So soldiers who were living here in the fortress of Diva, which is now Chester, they had goods coming in from all across the Roman Empire. We have amphora handles from Spain and Italy itself, so we know that they've come from the States there. The nearest country they could trade with was Gaul, which is France, so they got lots of pottery made in southern Gaul coming over here. And they also had we had lots of people who lived in different countries who lived here in Diva as well. So we know from the Roman tombstones that we have in the museum collections that there were soldiers here from the Ukraine and from Spain and from Gaul as well. So they would have brought lots of things with them. So we've got lots and lots of material flowing all around the empire for soldiers to use.
We are now on the Roman walls. The first walls were built in 79 AD, but between the 1st and 3rd century, they were replaced with stronger stone to protect it more.
There are only significant Roman walls left and the rest of them down.
The walls were built to protect the city.
They were made from wood, and after 30 years they changed the walls to brick.
One of the ways the walls fell down is when people were digging to build houses.
Where did the Romans get their supplies from?
Well, a bit like where they got the food from, they came from across the entire Roman Empire. So they had big ships which would come in with supplies to the port here in Chester, and they'd unload and they'd spread out then. Either they'd be used in the fortress or a bit further afield where they were building camps and that sort of thing. They also made things locally. So in Diva itself, there was a tile works.
Pointing at things, saying, "Wow, isn't this amazing?"
The roof tiles and the water pipes and everything like that to supply this legionary fortress. So wherever the Romans set up camp or had a city, they'd start using things from the local countryside around the outside of the city, like clay or water, and that's where they'd get some supplies from. And if it was something they couldn't get from the local area, they'd get it from slightly further afield.
Welcome to the Minerva Shrine.
The shrine dates from the early 2nd century and is carved into the face of the sandstone rock. It's the only monument in its kind in Western Europe. The Minerva Shrine is a shrine to the goddess Minerva in Edgefield, Hanbridge, Chester, England.
The shrine stands beside Old Main Roman Road. Into Minerva was a Roman goddess of war, knowledge and craftsmanship.
Who were the top 3 Roman emperors?
Well, that is a tricky question. There were lots and lots of Roman emperors, and they all did different things and had different qualities. My personal top 3 emperors, first of all, are Augustus. He was the first emperor, so he kicked things off because before that they didn't have emperors. And he put lots of things in place to make ruling the empire easier for people coming up. The Emperor Nero, he has lots of juicy stories about him, so I quite like him as well. And then one of my favourites from this, who associated with this province of Britannia, is Hadrian. He built Hadrian's Wall, look at the top of the country.
Welcome to the Roman Keep.
The remains of a Roman keep can be found hidden away at the foot of the medieval walls along London to the east of the racecourse. The quay lies at the point of the Blackfriars Road intersects Nuns Road.
The remains of the consist of the unearth-covered mound of cut red sandstone and represent the last remnants of the riverside quay that would have been used to load and unload ships as they sailed up the River Dee to this point. The river would have lapped the foot of the wall here for 4 or 5 metres below the current ground level, providing a good deep navigable river for the Romans to use.
The river silted up over the course of about 2,000 years and receded away to the west. The medieval walls were built on top of the Roman remains, and the racecourse now occupies the old flood plain.
Thank you.
Did the Romans go to school?
Well, some Romans would have gone to school. It wasn't the law that they had to go to school like it is now in our country, but some Romans definitely learnt how to read Latin, write Latin and count in Roman numerals because we found their textbooks and we found wax tablets that they used to use in school, and we have descriptions of lessons as well that some of the Roman writers have left us. So not every Roman would have gone to school, but some definitely did. Well, the Romans mainly used wool to make their clothes. They didn't have cotton in the Roman Empire, so they used lots of wool. Sometimes they'd use silk, which they did have, but normally wool. So they'd get the wool from a sheep and they'd spin it using a spindle, and then they would weave it using a loom to make long sheets of cloth. In Diva, the Roman fortress here, I imagine they used lots of heavy grade wool because it was probably freezing for most of the year. And in places like Rome and at the warmer parts of the empire, they'd use nice thin bits of cloth. If you were a normal Roman soldier, you'd wear a red tunic, or a Roman citizen, you'd wear a red tunic or something like that. If you were an emperor, you could wear purple. That was the most expensive sort of dye made from ground up shells, seashells, and only an emperor could wear purple.